Picture this scenario. You're sitting at your kitchen table, calculator in hand, staring at a pile of bills that somehow never seems to get smaller. Meanwhile, your savings account balance looks more like a phone number from the 1980s than something that could actually help you build a future. Sound familiar? Well, here's something that might completely change how you think about wealth building. The difference between people who accumulate serious money and those who stay financially stuck isn't about earning massive salaries or inheriting trust funds. It's about mastering tiny, almost invisible habits that compound over time into life-changing results. My name is Emmy, and I've spent years studying the microscopic behaviors that separate the wealthy from everyone else. If you've ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly build wealth while others work just as hard but never get ahead, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helps you understand the real mechanics behind financial success. Most people approach wealth building like they're trying to climb Mount Everest in flip-flops. They think they need to make dramatic changes, cut every expense to the bone, or find some secret investment strategy that only rich people know about. But here's the thing that will probably surprise you. The most powerful wealth-building strategies are so small that most people dismiss them as insignificant. We're talking about habits that take less than 5 minutes to implement, but create compound effects that transform your entire financial trajectory. Today, I'm going to break down 10 tiny habits that can accelerate your wealth, building faster than you ever thought possible. And I guarantee that at least 3 of these will completely shift how you think about money and opportunity. The first habit that changes everything is what I call the visibility principle. Most people treat their money like it's some mysterious force that comes and goes without explanation. They check their bank account maybe once a week, usually right before panic sets in about whether they can afford groceries. But wealthy people have a completely different relationship with their numbers. They know exactly where every dollar is going, not because they're obsessive, but because awareness creates control. Here's the tiny habit that makes all the difference. Every single morning, spend exactly 2 minutes checking 3 numbers: your checking account balance, your savings account balance, and your credit card balance. That's it. No spreadsheets, no complicated tracking systems, just 2 minutes of financial awareness before you start your day. This habit seems almost ridiculously simple, but it creates something psychologists call the observation effect. When you consistently observe your money, you naturally start making better decisions about it. Think about it this way. If you stepped on a scale every morning, you'd probably become more conscious of what you eat throughout the day. The same principle applies to money. When you see your account balances every morning, you become hyper-aware of purchases that might impact those numbers. Suddenly, that expensive coffee doesn't feel like pocket change anymore. It becomes a conscious choice that you're making with full awareness of its impact on your financial picture. The second habit involves something most people get completely backwards. Instead of focusing on cutting expenses, wealthy people focus on expanding what I call their value creation capacity. Here's the tiny habit that makes this practical. Every day, spend exactly 5 minutes learning something that could increase your earning potential. This could be watching a tutorial about a skill related to your job, reading an article about your industry, or even just browsing job listings to understand what skills are in demand. The key is consistency, not intensity. 5 minutes every day equals over 30 hours per year of focused learning. That's enough time to develop genuine expertise in areas that could significantly boost your income. Most people think they need to go back to school or get expensive certifications to increase their earning power. But in reality, the marketplace rewards people who can solve problems and create value regardless of their formal credentials. The third habit transforms how you think about money itself. Wealthy people understand that every dollar has the potential to work on their behalf, but most people treat money like it's meant to be spent immediately. Here's the tiny habit that changes this mindset. Before making any purchase over $20, pause for exactly 60 seconds and ask yourself one question. Instead of buying this, what would happen if I invested this money for 10 years? This isn't about never spending money on things you enjoy. It's about making conscious choices based on opportunity cost rather than impulse. When you consistently ask this question, you start developing what economists call time preference. You begin naturally favoring choices that benefit your future self over immediate gratification. That 60-second pause creates space between impulse and action, which is where wealth-building decisions are made. The fourth habit involves leveraging something that most people completely ignore. Your existing network contains more wealth-building opportunities than you realize, but most people never tap into this resource because they don't know how to have productive conversations about money. Here's the tiny habit that unlocks this potential. Once per week, ask one person in your network a specific question about how they approach their finances. The question doesn't have to be invasive or personal. Something as simple as, "I've been thinking about improving my financial habits lately. What's one thing that's worked well for you?" can open up incredibly valuable conversations. Most people have learned something about money through trial and error, and they're usually happy to share their insights when asked in a genuine, non-judgmental way. This habit works because it transforms your social interactions from casual conversations into informal wealth-building education sessions. You might discover that your coworker has a side hustle that generates an extra $1,000 per month, or that your neighbor found an investment app that simplified their approach to building wealth. These conversations often reveal opportunities and strategies that you never would have discovered on your own. The fifth habit involves automating one specific decision that most people make poorly every single month. The moment your paycheck hits your account, wealthy people have already decided where that money needs to go. But most people treat their entire paycheck like spending money, then try to save whatever's left over at the end of the month. Spoiler alert, there's usually nothing left over. Here's a tiny habit that flips this script completely. Set up an automatic transfer for exactly 10% of your income to move from your checking account to a separate savings account within 24 hours of receiving your paycheck. 10% might sound like a lot, but here's the psychological trick that makes this work. Your brain adapts to your available spending money within about 2 weeks. If you consistently have 10% less available to spend, you'll naturally adjust your spending patterns without feeling deprived. This automation removes the willpower component from saving money. You're not making a conscious choice every month about whether to save or spend. The decision has already been made, and your financial system executes it automatically. This single habit creates a foundation that everything else can build upon. The sixth habit addresses something that sounds boring but creates massive wealth acceleration over time. Wealthy people understand that small fees and unnecessary expenses are like tiny holes in a bucket. Individually, they seem insignificant, but collectively, they drain away thousands of dollars that could be building wealth instead. Here's the tiny habit that plugs these holes. Once per month, spend exactly 15 minutes reviewing your recurring subscriptions and automatic payments. Cancel anything you haven't used in the past 30 days. This includes streaming services, gym memberships, app subscriptions, or any other recurring charges that automatically come out of your account. Most people are shocked when they realize how much money they're spending on services they've forgotten about or stopped using. The average person has over 12 recurring subscriptions, and many of them haven't been used in months. That 15-minute monthly review can easily save you $50 to $100 per month, which translates to $600 to $1,200 per year that can be redirected toward wealth building. The seventh habit involves changing how you think about major purchases. Most people focus on whether they can afford the monthly payment for something, but wealthy people always consider the total cost of ownership plus the opportunity cost of that money. This shift in thinking prevents expensive mistakes that can derail wealth building for years. Here's the tiny habit that makes this practical. Before making any purchase over $500, spend exactly 10 minutes researching 3 things: the total cost, including maintenance, insurance, and depreciation, the opportunity cost if that money were invested instead, and at least 2 alternative options that might meet your needs for less money. This 10-minute research habit has probably saved me tens of thousands of dollars over the years by preventing impulse purchases and helping me find better alternatives. It also creates a natural cooling-off period that prevents emotional buying decisions. The 8th habit transforms how you approach your primary income source. Most people treat their job like a fixed arrangement where they show up, do their work, and hope for occasional raises. But wealthy people understand that every job is actually a business relationship where you provide value in exchange for compensation. The more value you provide, the more compensation you can command. Here's the tiny habit that accelerates your earning potential. Every Friday, spend exactly 10 minutes documenting one specific way you created value for your employer that week. This could be solving a problem, improving a process, helping a colleague, or completing a project ahead of schedule. Write it down in detail, including any measurable results. This documentation serves 2 purposes. First, it gives you concrete examples to reference during performance reviews and salary negotiations. Second, it trains your brain to actively look for opportunities to create additional value, which naturally leads to better performance and recognition. The 9th habit involves something that most people completely avoid because it feels uncomfortable, but wealthy people embrace it as essential for growth. Every month, spend exactly 20 minutes tracking your net worth. Not just your checking account balance, but everything. Your savings, investments, debts, and even the approximate value of major assets like your car or home. Most people avoid this because they're afraid of what they might discover. But knowledge is power when it comes to wealth building. Tracking your net worth creates accountability and reveals patterns you might miss otherwise. Maybe your investment account is growing faster than expected, or perhaps that car loan is costing you more than you realized. This monthly snapshot becomes your financial scorecard and helps you make better strategic decisions about where to focus your energy. The 10th and final habit addresses something that separates people who build lasting wealth from those who just accumulate money temporarily. Wealthy people understand that money is simply a tool, and like any tool, it works best when you know how to use it effectively. This means continuously educating yourself about financial concepts, investment strategies, and wealth-building principles. Here's the tiny habit that compounds your financial intelligence over time. Every week, spend exactly 15 minutes consuming financial education content. This could be reading one article about investing, watching a short video about budgeting strategies, or listening to a podcast about entrepreneurship during your commute. The key is consistency, not intensity. 15 minutes per week equals 13 hours per year of financial education. That's enough time to develop genuine expertise in areas that could transform your relationship with money. Most people think they need expensive courses or complex certifications to understand wealth building, but the fundamentals are accessible to anyone willing to invest a small amount of time consistently. So there you have it, 10 tiny habits that require less than an hour per week combined, but create compound effects that can accelerate your wealth building by years or even decades. The beauty of these habits is that they're so small, they feel almost effortless to implement, but their cumulative impact is absolutely transformative. Pick 1 or 2 that resonate with you most and start implementing them this week. Your future self will thank you for the decision you make right now.